My name's Matt, and before you say it, I know what you're thinking. Dude, what's with the outfit, and what is with that headset? I thought I was just going to be watching a video on some ill-defined words. I didn't realize it was going to be such a classy affair. Well, worry not, guys. The only reason I'm dressed this way is because I'm rehearsing for an upcoming TED Talk that I gotta give. I know, it's pretty crazy. The topic of the TED Talk is going to be how to get anyone to believe that you're a respected public speaker. I've been working on the ending of this bad boy for a while now, but I just can't seem to figure out the right word choice. I was thinking about kicking off the conclusion with something like, "That's my spiel," or "Sorry about the spiel, guys." But since I thought of it, something has felt off about that word choice. I hear that word spiel a lot from people who do a lot of talking, whether it be professional public speakers or a friend giving a passionate soapbox speech. But I still feel like I'm in the dark about this word, even considering the context I have for it. And until today, I had yet to ask myself, what is it actually defined as? So I took the time to find out. Before we look at the commonly accepted definition, let's take a look at how the word spiel is used day to day. Personally, I associate this word almost exclusively with public speaking, and the more a person does it, the more likely they are to give a spiel. The formality of the speech's setting doesn't seem to matter. You'll hear it from motivational speakers, from infomercials, and even from people in long-winded Facebook rants. Speakers tend to use it to make a self-deprecating joke about how a speech they just gave was long or boring, as an additional attempt to appeal to the audience. This was the way I had intended to use it in my very legitimate TED Talk. I would say something along the lines of, "So that's my spiel," or "Sorry about the spiel, guys," to get a chuckle from my battered audience who has just had to endure one of my speeches. So, the word does have a consistent meaning in the way we use it. Alright, let's take a look at the actual definition for the word spiel. We're going to head to the lab for this one. We've got some advanced technology on standby down there that'll help us break this word down. Alright, welcome to the lab, everybody. Be careful coming in now. We wouldn't want to break any of the fine technology we have available to us here. By the way, today's lab is brought to you by Staples. Now, if you look up the word spiel, nearly every source will give you a different definition, as well as differing levels of specifics for the word. I've chosen to look at this one on the board in particular because it's the first one that will result from a web search for the word spiel. Because of that, it's realistically the most widespread and accessible version of the definition we have. In addition to that, it's pretty awful. It's quite wordy and vague, but the real problem is that it leaves you with no idea of how to use the word spiel at all. With a definition like this, it's unsurprising that the misuse has become so widespread. So, let's unpack this definition together. The first problem we run into is that beginning. A spiel is apparently anything that falls under the category of a long or fast speech or story. What on earth does this even entail? Everything? Pretty much any sentence could be described as a fast speech or story. Fast could be referring to the actual rate of speech and not the length, but who knows? This definition does not bother to specify. The fact that they actually wrote in that it can be long or short is weird as well as annoying. Why even bother writing it at all then? It adds nothing to the definition and only serves to confuse the person who looked it up to begin with. Alright, if the first part of this definition is too vague, maybe the rest of it will shine some light. A spiel is a long or fast speech or story, typically one intended as a means of persuasion, or as an excuse, but regarded with skepticism or contempt by those who hear it. Now, let's have a look at the second part and the insanely specific scenario described in it. It is a speech meant to persuade or serve as an excuse, but is met with skepticism and contempt. Well, now we have the opposite problem from the beginning. This is way too specific. Is that really the only scenario where spiel could apply? It seems as though a speaker always has to seem untrustworthy or unsavory to give a spiel, but we know from society that that's not the case. I, in particular, think of a spiel as a long or mentally draining speech, not one that inspires contempt for the speaker. In that case, I'm much more upset at the volume of words being crammed into my ears rather than the actual message they carry. Additionally, what public speaker would ever use a word that suggests the audience should be skeptical of them, even in sarcasm? This definition is bad, and it's bad in an oxymoronic way. The noun that it's referring to is insanely vague, but the context you'll find that noun in is extremely specific. It goes against the idea of a definition itself. Definitions are supposed to provide us with information about the word in question and the appropriate context to use it. This provides very little information about the word itself and then constricts its usage to a very specific set of guidelines. Alright, this definition needs a serious overhaul. Let's get back to the lab. Alright, after some arduous and extremely messy lab work, I've developed a definition that I believe can fix the word spiel once and for all. Or, at least this terrible definition of it. Here's my interpretation of how this word should be used. Spiel. A long-winded and impassioned speech meant to express personal opinion and/or attempt persuasion. Let's talk about the problems that this new definition addresses. First and foremost, it defines the actual noun in question clearly. It's a speech. It might contain stories to drive its points home, but overall it is a vocal presentation with a purpose, whether that be to sell a product or to change your stance on gun control. Secondly, the words I use to specify the nature of a spiel are less constricting than the previous definition. Instead of describing the predicted audience's reactions as the defining characteristics of a spiel, I define it as long-winded and impassioned, as the typical spiel often is. For example, an infomercial salesman might eagerly tell you about all of his product's wonderful features in a passionate monologue, while simultaneously taking up 10 minutes of unbelievably boring screen time to do so, resulting in an undeniable spiel. My definition provides a reasonable amount of specifics. It gives the word a more broad meaning than it had before, while simultaneously keeping a unique identity for it. Alright, I've addressed all the problems I've had initially with the word spiel. Consider that terrible definition dealt with. Alright guys, I've got to get back to working on my TED Talk now. But rest assured, I won't be using the word spiel at any point. Mostly because I don't want to tell my audience that it's okay to hold me in contempt while I'm talking to them. Hopefully I've shed some light on why this word sucks the way it is, and why its definition needs a serious overhaul. And for my final word on the subject, Germany, I'm really sorry about what we did to your word, dude. That wasn't cool.